My name is Alejandro Ulzurrun. I am the head of unit for consumers, just transition, and local initiatives in the Directorate General for Energy in the European Commission. And I'm really very happy to be here today with you for this last panel discussion of what I know has been a very interesting and fruitful and inspiring 2 days of discussions. First of all, and before I say anything more, I would like to give you the greetings from Paula Pino, my director, the director for Just Transition. She was planned to come here today, and she actually wanted it very much, but there were a number of things that happened at the last minute, not just one, but a couple of them. So Paula couldn't make it, and she asked me to convey her regards, and she hopes to be here for the next session. So let's get going with the panel of the next 1.5 hours. Before I do that, I have been kindly asked to recall the housekeeping rules, which I'm sure all of you know by now, but in any case, I will quickly go through them. So to connect to the Wi-Fi, you can use the information indicated around the venue and on the slide, so the info that we have there. There is remote interpretation available in English, Czech, French, Polish, Romanian, and Spanish, and that is available on the Interaxio application, which can be downloaded in iOS and Android. And you can listen to the interpretation by joining the event with the codes on the screen, depending on whether you are here on site or online. Now, after we have a panel, or following our panel discussion, the interventions of the panelists, we will have a Q&A session. For those of you who are here in this meeting room, raise your hand when you want to ask a question. And for those of you who are online and hopefully seeing us, if you wish to ask a question, use the swap card chat function that you have available online. So those are the rules for the logistics of our meeting. And now let's get going on the substance, which I'm sure is what you are looking forward to. So, we're here today to talk about conversion, rehabilitation, and repurposing of sites after coal phase out. This is a really important matter. Rehabilitating and repurposing brownfield sites following mining and heavy industry operations is a crucial agenda item, in particular for coal and energy-intensive regions in transition. There are many challenges. There are many challenges related to the repurposing of land or brownfields. In many places, there are legal and regulatory obstacles preventing the management of those sites. Local and regional governments are concerned about the past, current, and future uses, which is good, but sometimes those sites are frequently owned by national authorities or private owners. Redevelopment of these locations is contingent upon the successful resolution of ownership disputes or asset management. Furthermore, sometimes these places are also burdened with other problems, such as subsidence or other important ecological challenges. The timely and efficient repurposing of land and infrastructure is often seen as a decisive factor in attracting new businesses and jobs in the region. Therefore, reconvention and repurposing are essential to paving the way for a new future. And it is in this perspective of looking at the future and looking ahead that we shouldn't focus only on the challenges that I just briefly hinted at. We should also look at these opportunities, because the areas that we're talking about they really have unique opportunities. They are large, they are well suited for further economic activity, such as energy, business, or residential projects. They have built networks, for example, for large electricity supply. They are connected with infrastructure that can be used for district heating or hot water distribution. They have capacity water pipelines, etc. So there is a lot of opportunities in these structures. They are linear structures which do not need to be newly built and can be upgraded, while complex permitting processes can be avoided. So there is a lot of opportunity here. Rather than seeing coal and energy-intensive regions' situation as a liability, we should see it as an opportunity. So that is why I'm really very happy to have this panel discussion today. Before I introduce our first speaker, member of the panel, who will give us the keynote speech and will frame our discussion, I would like to invite you as a warm-up for the panel to look into a couple of Slido questions. So I think we will see the first Slido question soon, and I think the Slido question will be very good. Which one major challenge that you face in rehabilitating a site or an asset is the most worth sharing? And when you refer to that, please also mention the region you come from. So, voila, 3 participants already typing. I invite you all to give us your views or to share your experience. Oh, ownership already twice. Good. I mentioned that already in my introduction, so that's good. Remember to add also the name of the region that you come from. Another input from Romania. State aid, well noted. Big problem regarding polluter didn't pay, delays in calls, ecological burdens. Polluters again. Good. Oh, that's somehow become Finland. Somehow, I'm not sure that Finland would like to be associated to ecological burdens, but some algorithm has made it so. Very good. Thank you very much. I see a lot of reference to property, to state aids, and also who pays for the pollutions. This is really, really very useful, and we will keep that in mind for our discussions. And I see that we have a rather broad geographical representation of those of you who are participating in the Slido survey. So thank you very much for that. And I see that funding also comes up rather in a couple of replies. Brilliant. So this gives us very good framing for our panel discussions. I would suggest that we now go for the second Slido poll. So many regions come up with interesting and impactful ways to repurpose sites and assets. Good. Which one repurposing project do you find to be the most innovative to share with the others? And here also, please include the region you come from. Okay, so uncertainty probably is not a project, or maybe it is, but thanks a lot. So we already have one intervention. Who else would like to share experiences and views? City of Acrobat. Good, from Sasavie and Limburg Cultural Hub. I see 7 people typing, so there's going to be other. Okay, DOV in Ostrava, Czechia. Hydropower in Greece. Lower Vitkovice in Ostrava. So there's a couple of projects from Ostrava, agrivoltaics. Very good, okay. Now Ostrava is getting relevance here. That's very good. Very good. I think this is one of the purposes of today's discussion as well, that we learn about innovative ways of doing things. I would really like to thank you all for having shared this experience in the Slido poll, which, as you can see, is still providing us with many, many other examples. And good thing here as well is that we have a really, really broad representation, geographical representation. So, if you allow me, and thanking everyone for having shared the experiences in the Slido, which gives us the framework of our discussions, I would like to invite our first speaker of the podium, and our first speaker is Piotr Czofałka. Piotr is the Deputy Director for Research. Piotr, you are the Deputy Director for Research and Development at the Institute for Ecology of Industrial Areas in Katowice, in Polish Silesia. You have been involved in the transition of the region of Silesia, but also focused on our sustainable urban development and climate, environmental, circular, and air quality aspects of the transition. You have been involved in the exchange of knowledge on the transition of the Polish coal regions and the Ukrainian ones. Piotr, we are really looking forward to listening from you. You're going to frame our panel discussion, so please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to the panel. I'd like to share with experience from our region. I represent the Silesia region in Poland. And in my presentation, I'd like to talk also about one example from neighboring region, which is Moravian Silesian region from Czechia. When we talk about repurposing of industrial sites, post-mining sites, and other different plants, we have to take into account the different scenarios of repurposing. But before it is closed, such installation, we have to take into account different aspects, especially in the planning phase. And I think that I should mention here such elements as health and environmental safety, local and regional aspects of plant repurposing, stakeholders' involvement in the process. But we have to think also about total costs of investment, including remediation costs and other costs connected with the investment, rehabilitation, for example. We have to take into account also who is administrator, who is the owner of the facility, of the land, and is it possible to transfer this ownership in an easy way. But we have to also think about future cost of maintenance of facilities that will be created. I'd like to share with you the lessons learned from the flagship project of City of Katowice, which is Katowice Culture Zone, which was constructed in the middle of the city on the area of former Katowice coal mine. This project, when you look at the timeline, was realized during more than 15 years. And I want to put your attention into timing. Timing is an important factor, not only in this project, but in many, many projects realized in post-industrial areas, especially in post-mining areas. In case of this project, over 1 billion Polish zlotys was involved, and half of this amount was coming from EU funds. 5 years of this period was dedicated to ownership issues. The next 6 years, it's planning, preparing documentation, preparing public procurement, and the last 5 years, it's construction of 3 elements of this zone, which are Silesian Museum, National Polish Radio Symphony Orchestra Concert Hall, and International Congress Center. You probably know this place as it was venue for the COP24. Of course, all post-mining areas, post-industrial areas offer many opportunities. But for bigger cities, it is easier to create, to prepare projects, how to repurpose these areas. The problem is with smaller cities. When we took into consideration such cities like Pszów, Radlin, very small cities in our region, they have problem. First of all, they are not owners of post-mining assets, so they have to deal with the ownership transfer. And the other problem is to gather funds for the project. We've got many possibilities, as you can see on the slide, how to use this post-mining infrastructure, but these are 2 basic problems, as I mentioned. In a new perspective, when we have possibility to use JTF funds, there are new projects for Katowice. I would like to say a few words about new technological district project, which is Katowice Gaming and Technology Hub as well. This project will be financed by JTF. It is divided into stages. It's experience from the previously realized projects that only a few can be financed in this perspective and this fund. But it fits very well in a development strategy of development of the city because it uses advantages of Katowice. Katowice have many ICT companies that decided to make their divisions in the city, and the city is well known because of Intel Extreme Masters, because it is venue of this event as well. Next to the big projects, I'd like to mention also about some smaller projects with another function. This function is, for example, creation of new green spaces, or rather restoring of ecosystems. The first example comes from Chorzów. This is a melon park, which was created on the former area belonging to the coal mine Barbara. Today, this green space realizes multi-solving different functions. It includes adaptation to climate change, it improves biodiversity, and green and blue infrastructure implemented in this place helps in rainwater retention as well. Another example comes from Ruda Śląska. It's Antonia Hip. Today, this place has got this name, and it's the result of public involvement because residents chose this name. It is post-zinc Hip, which was adapted in a safe way after health risk assessment. Some safe methods of rehabilitation were proposed based on phytostabilization. And today we've got a place where people can spend their leisure time and can go for recreation. But post-mining, post-industrial sites, let's say generally brownfields, can also serve as installations or places where green energy can be produced. Here, 2 examples. The first one from Eastern Wielkopolska. This is the area belonging to previously to Zepak, this brown coal Adamów, where PV farm was installed and also windmills are installed. And the other example comes from Silesia region, which belongs to Tauron, which is energy operator in the region. They decided to put PV farm on a fly ash landfill that belongs to this energy company. I think that these are best practices when brownfields are used for PV farms instead of greenfields. Now about another example that comes from Gliwice. You can see here two buildings adapted from the previous former hard coal mine Gliwice. In these buildings is located the EMT system company that focuses on training and reskilling. I'd like to tell you that this company gives a possibility to get new skills or reskills the people that come from other industries. And for the last 18 years, this company managed to train more than 70,000 people. This place belongs to the Gliwice Education and Business Center, and I hope I will have some time to talk about this place in further discussion. And now the last example, but not least, comes from Czech Republic. I have seen on Slido that people from auditorium mentioned about Dolní Vítkovice, industrial complex that is metallurgical complex connected also with other objects like a coal mine and coke plant. And this is example of multifunctional use of land and post-industrial facilities. I would say that this place is oriented on development of industrial tourism, and it's very successful. I think that the best proof is the number of visitors that this place attracts. I think that problems in this area are similar to problems of our region. For example, from the closing of this metallurgical complex to opening of first facilities, it took almost 15 years. But it is an ongoing process because it's a large area where different objects are created. You can see on one of these pictures the logistics center that has been opened 3 years ago. Well, I think this is these examples are good material for the further discussion, and I hope it will help in our problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You would like to stay here, Piotr? Perfect. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Piotr. That was really very inspiring. I paid a lot of attention. I noted the timing issue, which is very, very important from your presentation, Piotr. And I also, among the many good examples that you gave, I also was very interested in the training and reskilling elements, because this is one of the areas with more opportunities, not only for the regions which are concerned, but also bearing in mind the important policy drive in Europe to increase our competitiveness in the clean industrial sector. So for me, that was extremely relevant. But let's move on with our program now. After this very good framing by Piotr, we have another presentation before we go into the panel discussion. So I would like to invite Yanis Beutel. Yanis is from the Secretariat of the EU Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition, and that is further to Yanis being a researcher at the Wuppertal Institute in Berlin, in Germany. So Yanis, you will tell us a few words about how the EU Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition helps regions that need, obviously, to focus on repurposing of sites and industrial conversion. So, Yanis, the floor, please come in. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for this introduction. I'll mostly would like to point to the knowledge material that we have already developed in the past, and a new product that is coming out like shortly after this conference. So the first toolkit is one of the first toolkits that we have developed for the initiative of coal regions in transition. That was the mine rehabilitation and repurposing toolkit. That really covers also already one of the key issues that appear when you have a site, which is the financing part, like how to secure mining, how to secure the financing for mine repurposing. And it shows also a couple of options of what you could do with a site. Then the other one is also relatively recently published. This came out of the technical assistance program together with the, or was prepared by the START program for the Silesia region. It's called Transformation Options Framework. This is a tool that guides you through the way for site repurposing. This is not only for mines, but also for brownfield sites. It was mainly developed for the Polish context, but I think it is very insightful also for the other regions to take a look at that one. And at last, we have a new toolkit that will shortly after this conference we'll publish this. It's called Managing Post-Coal Assets through Spatial and Strategic Planning. And here we also showcase a lot of examples, what you could do with an old site, what are the possibilities that's already out there, but also take that look and the perspective of spatial planning and how this could actually help you to also put it into the wider context, to not have like just another project developed on the side, but really connected to the overall strategic goals of your regions. And then, and so these slides, and so these publications kind of represents what we have right now, and I try to put together like the 3 core elements that probably unifies them. And the first one we have already seen on the Slido deck, that it's very relevant question for most of you, and that is also something that Piotr already said. That is that the timing is very important, and it's actually like already while a mining company is still running or a business is still undergoing its normal activities, it would be already important to start about the repurposing at that time, because the biggest problems, as we can see, we have when the ownership's not clear, when the financing of the remediation of the area is not clear. So that is really core number 1. And the second one is, and this is what we address in the new toolkit a lot, is how you can use spatial planning as a tool. In a lot of regions, this is also something that you can do on a municipality or at the regional level, where you have the authority over this planning, and where you can use this in a way to really see where are the connections to your other goals, your other targets for the transition, how you also make sure it's well connected to the other areas and to like aspects of transport, also like green corridors, for example, and how this can all play into this longer and like more broader discussion and strategy that you have. And this leads to point number 3, which also is kind of the learning a bit of the many examples that we have, that in most cases we will have like mixed land use approaches that will be the most effective, because then you can actually fulfill certain or like a couple of targets within one project, within one site. So not just have one purpose on one side, but multiple, and really try to do as much as possible with a site. So that's it from me already. You can get access to our knowledge products on our website, which is linked here with a QR code. And we'll send around also the new toolkit in our newsletter, so make sure you have registered for that as well. And with this, I will give back to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Yanis. And I would like to invite you, Yanis, also to stay on. So, thank you very much. Coal Regions in Transition platform and the support that we provide, that is provided, is very important, because the transition might be local, or regional, but there is an EU added value in sharing the knowledge and making sure that there is EU support for this transition. So I would really like to thank you very much for this presentation and more generally for the work that you do. So now let's get on with our panel, with our discussion, but we are still missing two important panelists. So first of all, I would like to welcome Anna Osterova. Anna is a program manager for the Just Transition Fund and the operational program side for the province of Dutch Limburg. And Anna plays a role in linking an integrated regional policy to support the transition of the region. So Anna, welcome. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Martin Šikovc. Martin is the head of the Just Transition Center in the Zasavje Regional Development Agency in Slovenia and manages the implementation of the Just Transition Plan for the region. Martin specifically focuses on the transition of Zasavje to a greener and more sustainable future. So Martin, welcome. So, that's your panel, and we have our pictures there, so we know who we are. So we're ready for the discussion. And in the discussion, I would propose that we focus on two things. First, on the how to do things. So how to do the conversion, the rehabilitation, or the repurposing of sites after coal phase out. That would be the first element that I would like to focus on. But then I would also like to, after how to, I would like to what to do with the site. So what ideas, what purposes we could give to the places that we are rehabilitating. So in that sense, maybe I would like to start with the first question for Yanis. So we take a first question for you, Yanis. So when we are talking about, or when the project of closing a mine comes into consideration, that's already complex in itself, but what is your experience or your advice when we envisage such project to make sure that it is leading to a just transition and it is not just another project? So how the just transition element features there, Yanis?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So this is what we researchers often say when we talk about governance. It's about like coordination, and one aspect of that is that you try to really kind of like try to also a spatial approach to site development. So usually strategies will focus on a sectoral approach, right? So you say you want to go into like maybe sustainable agriculture, you want to develop industry, and you have then, and coming from that, you develop the projects. But that's one way of how you can frame things. The other alternative, or I would say ideally, is an additional perspective for strategic planning, is a spatial component. So you really also need to integrate spatial planning into your local strategies, so that you're not only looking at the sectors, but also at just the land that is there, because you will have different kind of land use options that will also kind of compete against each other. You will have, and you will have several goals that you all want to fulfill at the same time, but it's probably not going to be possible, right? So you you want to increase the biodiversity, you want to set up, but you also want to set up a new industry, you want to connect the people better, build roads, but you also don't want to have too much land sealing. So these are problems that probably cannot be solved all at once, but the spatial component, where spatial strategy can help to navigate through these goals. And you can try to find the least harmful option if you want to frame it negatively, or like the best case scenario if you want to frame it positively. And that is, and that is something that we also discuss in our toolkit, where we say, this is actually a kind of like a way how you can integrate better your planning and make sure it kind of fits together with the other goals and objectives that you have in your region.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You have introduced the spatial element, and Piotr before had introduced the time element. So we have a space-time combination here, which is very much relevant. I will continue with some questions to all of you, but feel free if any one of you wants to interject or complement to what other colleagues say. Please, panelists, feel free to do so. But now I move on to you, Piotr. So we saw many good examples there of successful things, but successful projects. But in order to achieve success, there are many barriers to be overcome. There is maybe money, public money to invest in the reconversion of former mining sites, chemically polluted sites. In your experience, what are those barriers, and maybe how to overcome them?
Yes, thank you for this question. As you mentioned, there are many barriers, and we could also see them in a Slido survey, because our audience was here proposing or pointing into different directions. But from my point of view, the main problem is connected with the ownership transfer. From Polish perspective, post-mining assets that belongs to coal mines, most of coal mines in Poland belong to the state, are transferred to the one company that is responsible for management of such assets. This is SRK, the acronym for the company responsible for restructurization of coal mines. And it's not so easy to prepare the transfer of the ownership, as we could see in the Katowice culture zone. But the similar, I guess, a similar situation was in Dolní Vítkovice in Czechia. It took much time, too much time, to transfer the ownership, to prepare or preparing of a restructuring of ownership, because usually projects are connected not only with one side, but it is combined area. And I think that is one of the main problems, one main barrier that appears in the project. The other one, it's funding, as you mentioned. Bigger projects usually cannot get funding for the whole project. When we realized that, for example, culture zone, it was amount about 200 million euros. It had to be divided into stages, and from different sources, from national source, from regional sources, but also from EU support, it is combined and assembled as a finance mechanism. And I believe that for smaller projects, when we deal with, for example, ecosystem restoration, like it was in Amelung and Chorzów, we can find funding in one source. But in bigger projects, we have to think how to get money for it. So the best practice observed is to divide this project into sub-projects, into phases, stages, and then we can get some money for the initial stages. But of course, the budget of the project can change. We had an example in the morning session that a project in Ostrava had to be resubmitted because of inflation, and the budget went higher.
Absolutely.
So budget is another barrier. But we have also, we have to think also about health and environmental risk. Not all repurposing is possible in post-industrial sites, especially if we don't know much about chemical characteristics of the land. Because some hazard existing in this contaminated land, especially when we have to make a remediation, it influences the total investment budget, because remediation increases this budget. Therefore, I think the good practice is to prepare the regional or register of post-industrial sites and to gather information, especially environmental information, about these assets in the system. And I think that good example was presented on the conference in April here on JTP. It was mentioned about OPI TPP system that was developed in our region by Central Mining Institute. And I think that such systems should appear in each country, because then we have got better knowledge about these assets.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Piotr. So really, ownership, funding, health and environmental considerations, the three are very important. I listened attentively in particular to the ownership element, where now I saw that it's more complicated than just one site, one ownership. You have to look at a whole network or intertwining, no?
Of, yes, and the neighborhood of this.
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. So that makes it more complicated. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And your experience and the experience of your region, I'm sure, is going to be relevant to many colleagues here. So, Anna, I would like to continue with a question to you. I think you have an important project in the region, which is the main water. Can you tell us a little bit about it, and in particular about the implementation? And now here there is an angle that maybe we would like to look at, which is the role of the different layers of government. Different layers of government have different responsibilities, which in principle should make it easier to implement. But how did you go about it? We would like to hear about that as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, while preparing for this conference, we were thinking about what would be a good example. And I must say, I'm a bit biased, because this particular example is from my hometown. So,
which is good. We're talking about local projects here.
Exactly, so. Exactly. And since we have such a great example from my hometown, Heerlen, I would like to tell you more about it. You've heard from Janis and from Piotr, we have to take into account timing, budgeting, most of all, strategy, long-term strategy that is needed for a transition. And many things had to happen for this project to come into existence. For example, the mines started closing in our region in the south of the Netherlands around 1960s. In about 1970s, they were closed, and we used to pump out the water because we thought we don't need it, just let it go. Until '94, when we decided to just let it fill up with water. And it took us about the early 2000s to think, maybe we can do something with that source. Because in these hallways of the mines, we had hot thermic water in the bottom and cooler water in the top. So the municipality actually, they took up the role of project initiator, moderator, and they started investigating this issue. But it was quite complex and expensive. And it started with an Interreg proposal that they submitted for a pilot. So thanks to EU funds, and what Piotr also mentioned, the fragmentations of your timeline, in order to make something successful, they could do a pilot of 3 boreholes. Mm-hmm. And also a funny anecdote, they asked former mine workers where to drill the holes.
Absolutely.
So they actually used this old knowledge. I think it was mentioned before that we should think about a purpose before we close a mine. Well, obviously we didn't do that. But we did use the workers and the knowledge from it to some extent. So what is mine water? I'm sorry that it's such a long answer, but it's a wonderful project in which we use the thermic warm water to heat up houses, offices, businesses. That's the idea. But in order for it to work, first we had to have the pilot phase and investigate. Then you also need quite a good level of isolation of the buildings, because our Mother Earth only heats up until 30, a little bit more than 30 degrees. So if your houses are badly isolated, it's just pointless. And then the next phase is, of course, the extension. And that's what we're in now. And there are many, many challenges, one of which is funding. Yeah. I think we estimated we need about 300 million in order to extend the network. So yeah, you can imagine we don't have that lying around. But we're working on it, and we're very proud of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Anna, for presenting the project and also the challenges and how you overcame it. I really understood that the municipality played a leading role as initiator, as you said, of the project, which is very important. And I also particularly flagged or gave a lot of attention to the experience that you had, that former mining workers were instrumental in the change. So this is the opportunity that we're talking about. There are opportunities there. There is people with the knowledge to drive the transition, and that is, in my view, very, very important. So thanks a lot, Anna. We move on to another region of Europe, and we move on now to Martin and to your region, Sasavia. I'm sure you have also a very interesting project, and this one was the revitalization of a former open pit mine. So tell us a little bit about the why. Why did you choose this project, and why did the focus come to this region?
Yes, thank you for the question. Well, in the Sauja core region, there is a huge challenge with the promotion of entrepreneurship. Because we don't have enough business zone. Our region is quite mountainous, and it has a lot of degraded areas due to the mining activity, so it's quite a challenge to build new business zones. And for that reason, we focused on this former open pit mine, which is called Laconța, in just transition process. This is a former open pit mine that ceased its operations in 1996, and it was in the following years also rehabilitated and restored to its previous state by the mining company. It's also quite flat and sizable for the Soviet terms. It has around 22 acres, and it was already designated as a business zone in municipal spatial plans. So the region decided to transform, repurpose this former open pit mine to business zone through the just transition mechanism. And there is also one advantage of this zone. It is in the vicinity of one of the biggest solar power plants in Slovenia, so it's a good opportunity for this new zone to gain the access to a renewable source of energy.
Absolutely, thank you very much. And just the last sentence that you mentioned is very important, because we need to look at all the energy system in general, in particular the deployment of renewables. So when we look about the reconversion of a site, there are opportunities also here for the broader energy system. And basically we need to ensure security of supply for the region, etc. So that is certainly relevant. Thanks a lot, Martin, for sharing your experience. Piotr, I come back to you. You are giving us many good examples. You already mentioned health and safety. And obviously, there are health and safety issues, and that is definitely a challenge. But then maybe it's an opportunity, because when we talk about the reconversion, we must tackle those challenges, which is an opportunity to have a better environment, a better health situation for a number of persons concerned. Would you like to share your experience in your region or in Poland in general, and how to go about that?
Yes, thank you for this question. Regarding the health and environmental safety, we have to gather the information about potential and actual contamination of the site. In our country, there is a regulation of the Ministry of Climate and Environment how to perform site characterization and how to assess the risk assessment. So there are several stages. First of all, we have to make an historical analysis, what kind of activity was performed on the site, because it gives information what kind of contaminants we can identify potentially in making investigation. The other thing is how to divide this area to get representative probes that will give us information about the whole site. In Poland, there is the regulation that says according which algorithm, depending on total area of the site, you can set the grid for samples. You have to take into account geological characteristics of the site, because it influences how deep you have to drill to get a probe. And having these probes, you can put them to the laboratory to analyze these contaminants that you have said that are probable contaminants at the site. And having these results from the laboratory, you can perform the health risk analysis. And then you get an answer if you have to remediate the site, if it is the whole site. The advantage of this method is possibility of identification of single hotspots. Yeah. So it means you doesn't have to prepare remediation, which may be very costly. You would have to put this additional cost to your investment, but you can focus only on hotspots. And remediation of hotspots sometimes is quite cheaper than for the whole site. Mm-hmm. Another thing is that you can analyze different repurposing scenarios. In some scenarios, you doesn't have to clean up the site to the very high level, because for example, the commercial center, it's not the same what the residential zone, where is the contact with the potential contaminants. So this methodology helps to get the information that results in different scenarios, which are with different budgets, and you can choose which one is the best.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. And all these different remediation approaches are, I think, very important. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. You really need to look also at the broader situation. But again, I would like to insist here, there is opportunity, because environment is very important, obviously, and health is as important. So both essential goods, values of our society. So we do several good things at the same time, and we have opportunities there. Speaking of which, so good things, we have the EU Environment Directive. So there is an EU framework for environmental protection. Martin, I come back to you. So what is your experience with the application of the EU Environment Directive, in particular with respect to one important item, which is the polluter pays principle? We saw in the slide several references to the polluters apparently not paying, so there is an important element there. And also this principle is linked to the funding somehow. So what is all your experience here with the EU framework?
Well, in this project, for repurposing of former open pit mine, we had an issue with polluter pays principle, but as said, the area was already rehabilitated and restored into its previous state by the mining company, and this was done in 1996, which is before the European Environmental Directive came into force. Mm-hmm. It came into force in 2007, so we somehow managed to prove that the polluter pays principle does not apply in this case. However, because the area was just restored into its previous phase, the terrain is still somehow unstable, so unsuitable for any kind of construction of big, heavy buildings. So the newcomers to the new business zone will also have to deal with this issue and stabilize this area. And this is planned to be done through just transition mechanism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Martin, for that experience. And the framework, of course, is very important, but then the implementation is what counts, and your experience is really relevant. Okay, so we have looked at the experience on the conversion, how we did it, but we need to look ahead. And I think, now I don't remember, but one of the things I said when one of you presented your examples is that we need to look at the energy system of the future, right? Because, well, we were providing energy for our regions in the past. Now we're changing, we're improving, we're rehabilitating the sites, but there must be an opportunity here also for clean solutions. So, Yanis, I would like to turn to you now. What are your views on how we could use old power plants or other sites that we are rehabilitating for clean energy purposes? So looking ahead, what's the opportunity there?
Yeah, generally you can say there are like a lot of opportunities. We also have already quite some good examples around our regions, but also outside of the EU, on how old mines or power plants can be used for still some kind of energy purposes. And I would maybe start with the underground mines. Mm-hmm. So one example would be energy storage or geothermal heating to use energy mines. There are also projects that aim to use these like long, because you go quite deep underground sometimes, to use a gravity storage system. They don't have that much capacity, but some regions are looking into that. And then for the open pit mines, there we have, for example, floating PV. I know that Czechia is looking into that. So they want to repurpose mostly as a lake, but then put some solar on top. I think that's a great idea. And another potentially great idea that has not been implemented in any of our coal regions yet, but could be a great opportunity, is also use the pits for energy storage. So it could be like in Denmark, for example, they have some pit heat storage, and as you already have a pit, you could probably use it for that. Depends also a lot on like the remediation and the overall conditions, but it is definitely one of the technologies to look into. And then finally, looking into the power plants. Yes. There we have some more examples already, like energy storage. Often some of the coal regions have already put like solar on the ash deposit sites, but there, because they are usually not as large, it would be rather also a mixed approach. So really look into like maybe do both storage and several technologies, but really like site dependent and seeing what makes most sense in that region. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So voila, again, opportunities. We have opportunities there. And Anna, I would like basically to repeat a little bit the same question. What is your actual experience? So you're reconverting all sites, now maybe there's chemical facilities and so on. So I'm sure you have the green transition in mind and the green transition objectives, the clean transition objectives in mind. What's your take? How you look at it and how you make it real? Let's put it like that.
How we do it in our region.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as I told you before, we started this stepping away from the coal mines in the 60s. While doing that, of course, in that time, green circular transition was not a topic. So we transitioned into a chemical industry. One of the sites I would like to mention is the Camelot site we have in south of Limburg. It used to be owned and operated by the Dutch state mines. You might know it as DSM, because they're mostly known for the chemical activities. But they have this coal mine heritage, actually. And that's been going quite well, but of course, you know, having a chemical site is not that hot anymore, because we are well aware about environmental health issues that come with it. So now we're looking into a circular green transition and help to facilitate that. And how do we do that? Because we have this Camelot site that used to be fully owned by DSM, but just DSM. Over the years, it's been fragmented into many players, different parties. So we have over 200 companies, startups, scale-ups, everything on site that are extremely codependent and intertwined. So we're helping them into this transition by facilitating. One of the GTF projects we have submitted and have granted, thankfully, is to build a Brightland circular space. And that's, you can see that as a it's like a lab where they can test new technology. And it's all focused on this recycling, on closed loop. So these startups that have great ideas and they would like to test them, to bring it to the market, we facilitate that. And of course, looking into the future. And when you talk about challenges that we have is that, and I think most of you here will agree, is that politics have short cycles, right? Relatively short. 4 years, if we're lucky. And transitions, we need decades.
Absolutely.
So how do we maintain these long-term goal in order to achieve it and not waste money? Right? So how do we transition from chemical to circular closed-loop economy? When our politics think, well, in the next few years I will have to campaign for my new re-election period. So that's one of the issues we're, of course, struggling in, by maintaining these goals, and because it all needs funding, right? We are going to build this state-of-the-art facility. I do invite you all to come visit us at Camelot Brightlands. It's amazing. So please come. We're always happy to receive visitors. But it needs funding, and for funding you need support. So you can imagine how that goes. But well, we're hopeful. We believe in it, and we continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. This was really an inspiring reply to key things of the many important things that you said. First of all, this idea of the long term and the short term, and you mentioned the timing. At the beginning we said timing and space. Time and space are very relevant here, and obviously you need a long-term vision as well as the ability to deal with the short term, which, as you said, voilà, the short term, there are democratic choices, there are a number of processes that you need to play with. But you will never go anywhere if you don't have this long-term vision, which obviously in your case, voilà, you had a long-term vision, and from mining, chemicals, and now the next. So that was really very inspiring. You talked about innovation, about labs, and that is also very important. And maybe this links to another question I would like to do to Piotr, because there is an opportunity here, obviously, for innovation, to try out new things. We have skills, but we can develop new skills. We can develop technological hubs. We can repurpose the skills, so to say, or think about new things. So that is very important also in this context. It's about the opportunities for people and then for the economy, because let's forget, we need to increase as much as possible the competitiveness of the European clean industry. So I'm sure in Poland or in your region, Piotr, you have thought about this. So what are the good experiences that you would like to share?
Thank you for this question. I'd like to share with the experience of Nowe Gliwice. Yes. I've mentioned about this case in my presentation. This business and education center, which is existing since 2008, was created on the area of former coal mine Gliwice. The first idea was to establish or attract companies that could offer education, training for people that finished technical schools, high schools, and technical studies. But not only, because people very often want to change their profession. So from the beginning, reskilling was the subject also of the activity of this company. And it fits very well in reskilling that is required in a change or phasing out some industries like coal mining, like classic energy sector industry. And I think that activity of this company, EMT System, shows that it is a very successful story, because during the last 18 years, they managed to train over 70,000 people. They are in close cooperation with big companies, but also with the companies that decided to build their headquarters in this area. This center managed to attract 40 companies that delivered 2,000 jobs in the space. And they are focused in different new branches of industry, including also space industry. There is a company, Key Labs, that managed to launch satellites that observe the surface of our continent, not only in the whole world. So I think that emerging industries, industries based on digital technologies now are attractive for young people, but not only. There are some people that know that, okay, I'm in this sector, but it may be finished in some time, let's say in a perspective of 5 or 10 years, and I need to find a company that will help me to get new skills. And we've got also projects submitted at this edition of JTF that are focused on reskilling people that are leaving, for example, coal mining industry.
Absolutely.
Because we want to nobody left behind.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think there is no just transition if, I mean, everybody must be part of this transition and must benefit for this transition. So I think this is the right approach. No clean transition if we don't focus on people, and jobs are an important part of people's lives, but it's also the way in which every one of us contributes to society. So it's an opportunity, again, that we have here. So thanks a lot for this very nice example. I'm very happy because we are touching on quite many different angles of what we were planning to do at the beginning. But I think we shouldn't be talking like the 5 of us. So maybe now I would like dear participants here to open the floor. We have, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe for Q&A. So I would like to open the floor here for questions, but also for remarks, for experience sharing. So if you are here and want to intervene, please raise your hand. And if you are listening to me online, which I'm sure you are, so then we will know about it and we will take the questions as well. So Eva Srunova has the first question.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this very interesting session. I have a question for Anna. She mentioned this challenge of changing political structures in time while the transition needs to continue, and I would be interested in how you managed to overcome this in concrete terms, whether there were any hiccups, let's say, on the transition way, how you managed to overcome it and come to the successful end.
Thanks a lot, Eva. So I suggest maybe, Anna, you would like to reply, and I'm sure we will have many other questions. So please, Anna.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for listening. I think that maybe it's a secret weapon. But you know what's constant, at least in the region where I'm from, but I'm guessing maybe also in yours, because politicians, they change, right? They have to be re-elected. But you know who mostly stay in place? Civil servants. I do believe that secretly we don't get the fame, we don't get the any applause or anything for the work that we do, but we do it, and we do it for many, many, many years. And we advise these politicians that are often chosen due to their qualities, right? And we advise them because of our background, because of the knowledge we have. So I do think that that gives some kind of constant in the situation. Of course, in the end, the politician will decide which way to go. But I do believe we have our influence as civil servants, and we have a role in advising them. And at least in our case, that helped. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Anna. And thanks a lot, Eva, for the question. Participants in the room? Oh, we have one question online. Yes, please.
Yeah. So one of the participants online is asking what kind of policy instruments and funding instruments there are in the EU to further encourage member states to repurpose carbon-intensive assets. This is maybe a question to you representing the European Commission.
Absolutely.
But also maybe panelists can come in and tell us which funding instruments they've applied in their regions.
Absolutely. I think basically this all 2 days is about sharing. We have mentioned funding how many times today? So this whole session, these 2 days that we're here, is about how we are using the funding. Bearing in mind that there is the EU funding, and I should insist, the Just Transition Fund, and in general, all the cohesion and regional funds, they all, in a way, are at the disposal of the green transition, not leaving anyone behind. But I would like to actually turn the question, because what we have now is what we have now, and we have already heard about the experiences. But now we're in a very important moment of the Brussels bubble, of the European Union, because now we are changing political masters, okay? As you very well know, we are going to have a new commission with a new mandate to do new things. And in this context, we are also going to have a new EU budget, and there is already thinking about how to structure the budget of the future. In EU jargon, that is called the multi-annual financial framework, but basically this is the budget of the EU for the next year. And what is important here is not so much, the amount of money is very important, so how much money is very important, but also maybe we can learn from the experience, the structure of the funds, how the money, the programs, everything is structured, might make it easier or more difficult for those of you who have to use them to use them. So I would like to turn the question to my colleagues. If you had if you had magic, and you could say, President of the Commission, commissioners, I would like you to do things differently when it comes to funding. What it is that you would ask the Commission to do? You have a very good opportunity here. Are you happy with the current way in which the support for coal regions in transition is structured? Is there readability of the different funds, or would you prefer that things are done differently? Tricky question. It's an opportunity, but also a tricky question. Anyone would like to tackle that? Piotr.
Well, I think that's a tricky question because we are starting in this perspective using 3 pillars of financing of just transition. It is a Just Transition Fund and European Bank, Investment Bank, and loans. We have heard today about different sources that can finance transition, but we have, I think, we should try to fit the project, the budget, into different pillars because different regions have different instruments. I represent the region that is the biggest beneficiary of JTF, for example. Mm-hmm. So such example as new technology district project of Katowice, 3 stages from this project that are about 88 millions of euro will fit to JTF. And in case of Dolny Witkowice, we've heard that it will be financed by another pillar.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think we should wait for lessons learned from this perspective and use of sources from and use of these 3 pillars of just transition. Then we can think or rethink how to finance different projects and this strategy of just transition in our countries.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for that, Piotr. Anyone else would like to react to this very good question? Yes, Anna, please.
If I may. Is this recorded, by the way? No.
I think it is broadcast to the whole world.
Okay, good to know, good to know.
But feel free.
In that case, yes, everything is perfect. We love it.
Thank you.
No, actually, GTF, we do actually really like the project. We like the focus of it. because being a border region, we are often also involved in the Interreg, of course, several of them, and then we have our national funds. But we like the focus of GTF, so I don't know if that can be also applied to other areas. And the fact that even though it's technically governed by the national state, the regions still have plenty to say. So I would argue with my magic wand to leave it at the areas where they have the expertise. We tend to nationalize, EU levelize, is that a word? Not really. But yeah, but keep it at the regions, I would say, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing frankly and sincerely your views, Anna. I think EU funding is the biggest example of EU solidarity, and there is more than EU, which is important per se, but also is one of the biggest drivers of our transition or the competitiveness drive and so on. And I know Catherine and her colleagues in DG Regional Policy, I mean, this is basically their objective, first of all, how to get the money, but then how we make it possible that it is used in the most effective and efficient way by those of you who have the task to use it for good purposes. Great, thank you very much. I think we might have time to, yes, please, the colleague here. And if there is anyone else, maybe I saw another hand? No, so please.
Regarding the potential influence on the future funding, if there is any options to increase the risk capital investment in Europe, because we have the real lack for the startups, development and new technologies. And second thing, can we change the bureaucratic way of spending the money? That means not prepare the books about proposals what we don't know, but act much more as the description of the future challenges, which is so changing, especially at the present technological development. That means that we are many times too far away from the transformation of the technology, and we not have today the, we could say, flexible financial tools which could support most active, talented people to be in the global competition.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think you made a very good point. I have a couple of kind of elements of reply to you, but maybe do our colleagues want to agree or disagree or generally comment on what our participants said? You got general agreement here in this panel, and I think as well. So there is not only the public financing, there is the ability of innovate and having the right framework, not only regulatory, the right framework for innovation. We should work as hard there as possible. And then the second point, yeah, again, is about the efficiency of the system, how we can be up to speed and yeah, let's say, evolve in view of the learnings and the potential that we have for innovation. So I welcome your comments. So, well, dear panelists, dear participants, we are almost near the happy moment for you where you will not listen to me anymore because I will conclude the session. But there is still 10 minutes for listening because I would like now to close formally the whole 2 days of discussions that we have had. But before I do that, I would like to invite you to give a round of applause to our panelists, who did a fantastic job. Thank you very much. It was a great panel. I think I really enjoyed it. And now please remain here, and I will go there, and I will do the formal closure.